My name is Harry Wilson, and I'm running for New York State Comptroller. I'm here today to discuss two reasons. One, to announce the launch of a cause and effect tour across the state to understand how the budget fiasco in Albany is hurting real people and causing real problems in their lives. And secondly, to identify the role that the current unelected state comptroller has played in creating the current budget fiasco. The state's budget is past due. Our elected leaders have not been able to close a $9 billion deficit. Their solutions center largely on borrowing and tax increases, building on a legacy of fiscal gimmicks. Meanwhile, the core problem, which is out of control spending, remains unaddressed. Our budget fiasco is not just an Albany problem. It creates real problems for real people. And whether it is delayed tax increases that affect families struggling to get by, or delayed school aid that affects New Yorkers and young children across the state, the examples of poor management are with us every day. But the genius of our democratic system is that we have a series of checks and balances on these excesses. In New York State, the comptroller is supposed to be the check on the system. He's the chief fiscal officer of the state, the taxpayer's watchdog. But unfortunately for us taxpayers, the current comptroller is not a watchdog, but a lapdog. No candidate for statewide office is more responsible for the current mess we're in than the current sitting comptroller. He spent 20 years voting for the spending increases, tax increases, debt increases, and fiscal gimmicks that brought us to the brink of disaster. When I'm elected in November, I intend to transform the comptroller's office into what it should be, a check on the legislative process, on excess spending, and the leading voice for fiscal reform in a state that is in desperate need of it. I will use the constitutional powers of that office to audit the entire state program, state budget, identifying programs that don't work, that don't fulfill the goals they are intended to, that purely waste taxpayers' money, and they're a drain on the system. But first I want to engage a much broader cross-section of the state. I want to come out to the people, to the media, to the folks in Albany, and explain why our budget fiasco is not an abstraction, why it causes real problems for real people. So in the weeks to come, I will travel the state and speak with a broad cross-section of our fellow New Yorkers. As a self-made businessman and restructuring expert, I have seen problems just as daunting and fixed them through hard work, identifying the problems, and unwillingness to back down when the going got tough. If you are happy with how Albany works, if you think we have our fiscal house in order, then by all means, please vote for my opponent. But if you believe that someone who understands upstate New York, the suburbs, and the city, someone who has restructured large companies and intends to do the exact same thing with Albany, and if you believe we need to make those tough choices for the benefit of both ourselves and our children, then I want your vote in November.